For those of you who have jobs now, or have jobs, or planning to have jobs further down in college, you might work in like retail or food services. While this might pertain to you, it's called minimum wage. Minimum wage is the lowest that an employee or employer can pay an employee to work at their specific job. Currently, California is headed to a $15 minimum wage by 2023, with a dollar increase every year. In most cases, the minimum wage has a negative effect on the economy. As my secondary points to this main point is raising the minimum wage first hurts business, second will increase the cost of living for most citizens, and third, negatively affect employment. Now let's first talk about raising the minimum wage, how it hurts businesses. Small businesses can barely survive with the current wages. The Tribune Business News states that small businesses have thin profit margins and are the least likely able to absorb a significant increase in the labor costs. Already are dealing with healthcare, higher taxes, and extensive regulations. That means that the businesses, they're already paying so much for their healthcare and their income taxes. Now they have to pay for the increased wages of their employees. So it will be hard for them to be able to pay off the employees. And because of this, they will have, employers will most likely have layoffs to offset the new cost of employment. Another problem with raising the minimum wage is that it will increase the cost of living for almost everyone. Products will become more expensive, and this is shown through Orange County's register, which states, besides reducing employment, an inevitable impact of higher wage is increased prices for consumers. That means that everyone will now have to buy or pay more for the products, since products will be more expensive to pay off the employees' wages, since they're raised higher. And so it's harder for everyone to pay for those new products that are now more expensive. Another point is, University Wire explains, an increase of pricing leads to a higher cost of living. A higher cost of living leads to a needing of a larger monthly income per household, creating a cycle that will lead back to minimum wage. Mainly when prices are raised for products, it's harder for people to buy those products since their wages aren't high enough. So they will tend to want to raise the minimum wage yet again to offset that balance. Additionally, raising the minimum wage negatively affects employment. Every time minimum wage is increased, employment shrinks. The Institute for Public Affairs says, it follows that higher the minimum wage is, the more employment is restricted. That means for new people trying to get into jobs, they will find it harder and harder to get into the jobs because the prices for employees are already raised too high. So there won't be any addition to adding more people to these jobs. Also, another thing to offset the costs are the addition to robots. The Examiner arguing that McDonald's franchises would not be able to absorb the additional labor costs that would come with the minimum wage of $15. Rinzai, the former CEO of McDonald's, suggests that the restaurant instead would be turned to self-service kiosks to replace some of the employees. Robots are becoming cheaper and cheaper compared to employees, living and breathing employees. And if you replace those employees will no longer be getting a wage, and their income will not go back into the economy because there is no income coming from them. Since there's no money coming, they are not getting any money from not having a job. In conclusion, with businesses hurting, the cost of living, and employees getting replaced, the economy would suffer the minimum wage when it's increased.
All right, the proposition that's at the beginning of the speech, I don't think that you indicated explicitly, but I think we can figure out what it is. There's a good preview of what the supporting points are. They're all labeled very clearly as claims, so that's good. You signpost them in the body of the speech. That's very strong. You usually have a good explanation of each point as you're going through it. You have at least one piece of evidence on each of those points. I do think that you're very dependent on expert testimony to support these things. There's no statistical information, and that would be really useful. You have the one example of McDonald's at the end when you're talking about replacing it with automated workers. I think you generally do cite the sources for your information. That's good. So I just think you need a little bit more diversity of the evidence that you're presenting. The pacing is a little bit awkward sometimes. It's probably just something that needs a little bit more practice, but it was fine in the general presentation, and it was exactly 6 minutes, so that's nice. All right, thank you.